As hundreds of thousands of migrants return to Australia, 40 advocacy groups are calling for better protections to prevent these workers from being exploited. The majority come here on temporary visas, and a previous review found 1 in 2 of them are most likely underpaid. The federal government is now seeking to overhaul the system. Emilia Terzon reports.
Inderjit Kaur worked 20 hours a week for 7 months without pay in a restaurant in regional Victoria.
That was very hard, without money for my family, for myself, but I'm helpless.
The Indian-born chef felt powerless to challenge her employer while they applied for a visa for her to stay in the country.
They can cancel my visa, they can spoil my visa, they can spoil my career.
So you felt silenced?
I have no opportunity.
When Inderjit's visa arrived, her employer asked her to help pay for it, as well as reimburse any wages that were paid to her. She refused and lost her job.
First, I totally broken.
With help from pro bono lawyers, she took her boss and the company to the Federal Circuit Court for breaches of the Fair Work Act. It ruled Inderjit's employer, who have agreed not to name, took advantage of her vulnerability and desperation to obtain a 457 visa to obtain her labour at no cost to themselves, in an act that was deliberate, egregious and grossly exploitative. Inderjit's lawyer has seen few migrants stand up to the system.
It's a profoundly rare case. And that is precisely because, as happened with Inderjit, to take action against your employer is to risk the cancellation of your visa, is to render yourself insecure because you have no visa options to remain in Australia to pursue action against your employer.
Professor Alan Fells chaired a coalition government review in 2019 after the 7-Eleven wage theft scandal.
We found about 1 in 2 migrant workers were being exploited unlawfully. That's a sign of a system just not working at all.
He found that many on student visas were working more than they were allowed to, often for below minimum wage, and employers were hiding wage reimbursement.
So they pay the wage and then they take the worker to an ATM and get all the money back. Essentially, they're working for free or negligible.
Professor Fells recommended 22 changes, including tougher criminal penalties, which the Labor government says it will implement.
No one can excuse the predatory behaviour of employers who are exploiting people.
It's flagged an overhaul of the migration system.
These exploitative practices flow on across the Australian workforce and really diminish wages and conditions for all workers.
The federal government is expected to release its proposals in the coming months around budget time. It's meeting specifically with legal groups and unions on migrant exploitation, and many of them are calling for whistleblower protections for workers, as well as visas to allow people to stay here in Australia and fight their dodgy employers.
My one warning is don't bury the migrant underpayment issue in wider review of migration and ended up doing nothing.
Inderjit Kaur is now on a bridging visa.
Australia is a good country. Need to some fixing, just that's it. Otherwise, I'm very happy here.
Her and her husband hope to stay in the country long term.
Emilia Terzon.